My friends are no longer human, and neither am I. I thought they were embarrassed by their moon-drunk selves, but no. They were playing Silent Hill with my emaciated body. The moon's influence has moved past sending them into a trance-like state and acting moon-drunk. This was a whole other level of side effect. One they were trying and failing to hide with smiles and nonchalant faces. And I couldn't stand it. I was going to go fucking crazy. Especially when the three of them were acting like the night before never happened. I needed answers. Why were we replicating? And the numbers carved into mine and Rowan's neck supposedly marking our copies. Were Emmy and Kaz the same? I wasn't going to find them staying in that house. Not in my state of mind anyway. Paranoia had taken over like a virus. Like a parasite leeching onto my brain. Conversations with them turned into a game of cat and mouse. Kaz cornered me in the kitchen and lectured me about leaving the refrigerator door open. And I felt trapped. Like he was going to lunge at me any second. Like he could sense my smell. The taste of fresh flesh on my bones ready for him to tear off. He looked normal enough, talking like usual, with the brow raised and a slight curve of a smirk on his lips. But I didn't see intense hunger in his eyes. I didn't see anything predatory. Kaz seemed like himself, like the guy I'd been living with for almost 2 years. And somehow, that made it worse. That made them good actors. Rowan and Emmy were exactly the same, becoming the perfect mimics of the people I had grown to love. It was around midnight when I dragged myself downstairs, shouldering a backpack with everything I could pack on such short notice. Yanking the door open and stepping over the threshold, I sucked in the cool night air. Before I could step out, however, a chuckle startled me. Rowan, standing in his robe, dark brown curls sticking up everywhere. He regarded me with dark eyes, and just for a moment, I wondered if he was going to drop the act. Out of the three of them, Rowan was the one who struggled the most with the facade. I hadn't forgotten the look of resentment and hatred he'd given me on the night of the full moon. The real him. Relief flooded me at the thought of him giving in and finally ripping off the mask. Instead, though, he folded his arms across his chest and took a step forward, still with that smile, a smile I knew was a grimace. Rowan really wasn't trying to hide his disdain for me. Instinctively, I took a step back, and like clockwork, he took another step forward, and another, until I could smell the coffee on his breath. "It's almost midnight," Rowan said. If he noticed my panicked steps, he didn't say anything. "Where are you going?" "The store," I replied smoothly. "I need some fresh air." Rowan cocked his head, his lip curling. At midnight, the door slammed shut in my face, and I resisted the urge to shriek. "Yeah," I hissed out. "I'm gonna get some food." "Hungry?" He gestured behind him. "Dude, Kaz just made veggie lasagna. Don't you want that?" "No," I said. "I'm not hungry." "Uh-huh." His lip curled. "So what are you going to the store for?" The gleam of his eyes was driving me crazy. His whole expression, every contortion in his face, was challenging me to make more excuses. The conversation was going nowhere, and somehow, I could tell he was loving it. He was loving the fact that I was trembling, trying to stay calm, trying to stabilize my body. "Candy," I said through my teeth. "I'm going to get some candy," Rowan hummed, an almost genuine smile prickling. I might have fallen for it if it wasn't for how close he was standing to me. "Sweet, give me some, would you? There's something about those gummy snakes that seriously slap." He offered his hand for a high five, his gaze flickering to my backpack. He knew. I knew he knew. And yet, he wasn't saying anything. He was playing with me. Rowan's smile widened. "Hurry back, all right? There's some freaks out there, Nin. We don't want you getting hurt now, do we?" Something ice cold slipped down my spine, and I forced a smile back. Every instinct inside told me to run. I had to get out, away from him, from his coffee breath turning my gut, his erratic movements like he was ready to tear out my throat at any moment. I felt my body moving, my legs starting to work. One step, and then another. I turned away from him. It took a single breath to reach the door, and another to remember how to grab the handle and twist it. He was coming after me, I thought, my mind going into overdrive. I imagined his footsteps, heavy breath as he wrapped his hand around my arm and yanked me back inside, his teeth grazing the back of my neck. I forced my legs forward until I was halfway down the path, reveling in the cool night air grazing my arms. When I pushed open the rickety gate which squealed under pressure, I risked turning back, my heart in my throat. In my head, Rowan was a monster bleeding back into the dark, turning around to face the house. Though, there was nobody there. The door was still open, the hallway lit up in an all too familiar golden light. But Rowan was gone. When I squinted, I could just about glimpse his figure moving back up the stairs, in a slow, almost defeated stride. Something held me there for a second, staring at the house I always saw as my home, and the people I saw as my family, before I turned and finally catapulted myself into a run. It's not like I could go back to my parents' house. They live across the state, and it was in the middle of the night. I had a friend from class, Sam. We used to be close, but a while ago, he started to distance himself, only smiling at me in passing. We went from hanging out almost every single day to barely talking, and I figured it was just natural for a friendship to crumble, even if I didn't want it to. Sam got new friends, and I moved out to my dorms. I could either turn up at his door and make a fool out of myself, or go back to my cannibal roommates. Making a fool out of myself, it was. Sam lived in a large building, with ivy crawling up the red brick. The house was old and crumbling, but cozy. I remembered freshman days, sitting under the late glow of the sun. The two of us spread out on a warm picnic blanket, watching the 4th of July fireworks in the sky. Before I could hesitate, I knocked 3 times. The windows were dark, so that wasn't exactly comforting. Sam used to leave the door open so I could slip in whenever I wanted. Seeing it locked made my stomach twist. Sure, it was midnight. Why wouldn't he lock it? I was frowning at the decaying dandelion when the door opened, and a pixie redhead stuck her head out. I recognized her automatically. Poppy, Sam's roomie. I had grown used to her over-the-top smiles and obsession with mini cacti, but this girl seemed like a different person. There was something else, something I couldn't put my finger on. The girl was fully dressed in a leather jacket, over jeans and a shirt, her collar glistening from the downpour I'd managed to miss. Half-lidded eyes drank me in for a moment, like she was in a daze before she seemingly snapped out of it, yanking the door open. "Nin?" Poppy's gaze snapped to my feet. "Why are you barefoot?" She folded her arms. "Don't tell me you've got a weird fetish." I stared down at my feet, and she was right. I didn't even put on shoes. The worst part is, I barely felt the rough gravel between my toes and bare soles. I was numb on adrenaline. I shook my head with what I hoped was a smile. "Is Sam in?" Something flashed across her face, and it was so fast I could barely read it. Poppy was quick to hide it with a smile. He's kinda busy right now." Her attention went back to my feet. "More importantly, why are you running around with no shoes on?" Before I could choke out some kind of answer, the girl gestured me inside. "Get inside. Jesus, Nan. Your feet." I managed to smile, stepping into the hallway. The house was exactly how I remembered it. Homely. Safe. "Thanks." "What do you need Sam for?" Poppy asked, shutting and locking the door. I shrugged, shivering. I didn't realize how cold I was until I stepped into warmth. Just to talk to him. You know, catch up. Poppy laughed. About? You ran across campus to talk. Her smile was teasing, and I'd missed it. Nin, have you heard of texting? I'm kinda locked out. Poppy's smile faded. She cleared her throat, stepping aside. Well, you know you always got a home here if you're ever in trouble. She gestured over her shoulder. Sammy's in the lounge. Poppy led me into their kitchen and plonked a can of soda on the table. It was just like the old days. Poppy and I would hang in the kitchen drinking, while Sam took a millennia to get ready. You drink that. I'll drag Sam away from his game. I nursed the can between my hands, rolling it around. Game? Poppy rolled her eyes, yanking open the refrigerator with a little too much gusto and pulling out a beer. She cracked it open and took a sip through a groan. They're in the middle of a tournament, or whatever. It started last night and it's still going on. You'd think grown adults would do something more interesting with their time. But alas, I digress. Poppy set the can down. I've been trying to sleep for the last few hours, but they're pretty loud. I just blocked them out with whatever's on Netflix. Cracking open my soda, I downed half of it. God, there was nothing better than a frosty Coke. Rowan and I would use bottles of them for our failed TikTok account. We stopped doing it when he had to get his stomach pumped. Tournament? I said through a mouthful. I couldn't help noticing her attire, and her claim about not being able to sleep suddenly seemed dubious. What, had she been sleeping fully dressed? Poppy smirked and perched herself on the edge of the table. Just a nerd game, she said dismissively. Sam's friends are quite odd. I glanced at her jacket, still glistening. Have you been outside? Outside? Her expression crumbled before she realized what I meant. Oh yeah, I went for a walk. She grabbed her beer. Hey, why don't we head into the lounge instead? Huh? I'm sure Sam wouldn't mind us interrupting him. With a mischievous glint in her eyes, she spun around and grabbed my arm. Besides, Sammy's friends have been here long enough. As she pulled me into the lounge, I caught a fleeting glimpse of something. I didn't see much, just enough to know it wasn't some typical Dungeons and Dragons game. Papers were strewn across the table. A group of people, including Sam, was gathered around. One of them marking something on the paper. Sam's other housemates were conspicuously absent. When Poppy walked in, dragging me along, the group quickly turned to block my view, hurriedly clearing papers and shutting laptops. It felt like I just walked into something I wasn't supposed to see. Poppy, however, seemed delighted by their reaction. Oh, Sammy, she sang, leaning against the door with a smile. You have a visitor. Sam looked different, though I couldn't put my finger on why. His light sandy hair was tied into its usual clumsy ponytail, but the look on his face was one I'd never seen before. Flustered, his cartoonishly wide eyes blinking at me, like I was a hallucination. Like Poppy, he was fully dressed. Sam murmured something to the group, and they quickly gathered stained coffee mugs and bits of paper, clearing the table. Poppy, now slumped into a beanbag, shot me a grin. And then there were three. She stretched out like a cat and squealed when Sam threw a cushion at her. We finally have our house back. You know I have the lounge until 2, he retorted, continuing to tidy up. Poppy mimicked his voice, her body melting into the beanbag. You know, I have the lounge until 2. What did I tell you about mimicking me? Sam shot her a glare, exasperated. The girl chuckled. Hey, it's fun. It's not fun when you sound absolutely nothing like me. Cry about it, Sammy. Their back and forth reminded me of my own roommates. His lip curled into the slightest of smiles, and he picked up another cushion to throw. Poppy. Sam. She shot back in a mocking exaggeration of his accent. Sam's accent never failed to take me by surprise. Hard Aussie. When I first met him, I could barely understand him. It didn't help upon first meeting him. He talked like he'd been fast-forwarded. Originally from Victoria, Sam Fuller was my first friend. That's how we became close, actually. His amusement at my failure to understand him. Poppy folded her arms, her gaze trailing after the group filling out of the room. They were mixed ages, though none of them were Sam's. They all looked to be middle-aged to ancient. I glimpsed a woman who looked to be at least 70 stride to the door. "Don't give me that look," Poppy said. "Your weird friends can find another meeting place for your games. I want to sleep. Allie and Tom have locked themselves in their room since you decided to invite half the neighborhood. They're not weird games. We're saving the town." Sam shooed Poppy out of the room. "Don't you have work to do?" "Maybe." Poppy nodded at me. "I'll make you another drink." Her gaze fell on Sam. "Beer?" He grinned. "That'd be great." "Awesome." Poppy playfully hit him. "Get yourself one. You're a big boy, aren't you?" "I'll be in my room." Ignoring Poppy slamming the door behind her, Sam's attention flicked to me. "Nin, what are you doing here?" I couldn't help it, the words slipping out before I could stop them. "Who were they?" Sam dragged his hands through his hair. "Just friends." His expression softened, and the knot in my gut loosened. "You look like shit, Nin. What happened?" I figured telling him a diluted version of the night of the full moon was better, so I didn't sound out of my mind. By the time I was finished explaining, the two of us were curled up on his bed in front of his laptop playing YouTube videos on low. Poppy had lent me some clothes to sleep in, and I was ready to pass out. Sam sat in front of me, his arms wrapped around his knees. "So your roomies got you freaked?" He frowned, his sleepy eyes on me. "What did they do?" "Cannibalize my body." I thought dizzily. No, worse. They weren't just eating me. They were replicating me, so they could eat me again, and again, and again, and... They were just acting weird, I said. "Weird how?" Hours later, when I was falling asleep, and Sam was watching YouTube, he nudged me. "Nin." I mumbled into his pillow. "Where do you live now? Like, which house?" "It's just down the road from here." He hummed. "And those roommates? Who are they again?" I didn't answer him. I couldn't. Their names were entangled on my tongue whenever I tried. Sam asked me the same question every day, and the words tangled in my throat. I told him it was a prank gone wrong, and that seemed to appease him. But his expression never seemed to believe me, forcing a smile and nodding, like a parent reassuring a child everything was going to be okay. A week flew by in a confusing blur, and I went to class as usual, staying at Sam's until I could find a more permanent place. Much to Poppy's delight, Sam didn't invite his friends over again. Instead, he insisted on video games and takeout every night. It was like freshman year again, and I found myself drowning out the thoughts and questions still haunting me. With alcohol and drunk games of Risk, classes were more or less the same, but they were a good distraction. I got texts and missed calls from Emmy, and Kaz and Rowan were blowing up the group chat with question marks. I muted it and ignored my phone. There would be a point when I'd go back, I thought. After all, I had to know what was wrong with them, why the moon afflicted that kind of behavior, and just what exactly they had done to me, but it couldn't be yet. I can't remember what day it was when I fully came back to reality, badly hungover and feeling sick to my stomach. Class was ending, and as usual, I filed out of the hall, heading to where Sam usually met me before we went to his house. My head was spinning, a striking pain rattling my skull. I'd suffered from hangover headaches before, but this was something new. Swallowing 2 Tylenol with the cold coffee I'd had in my backpack all day wasn't the best idea. Slumping down on the stairs leading to the main reception, I fought against a cry, The pain was like nothing I'd felt before, like something had plunged a lead pipe through my brain and stirred my brain into a soupy mess. Luckily, Sam joined me quickly, his smile dampening when he saw my expression. "Oh man," he felt my forehead. "You look like you're gonna barf everywhere." Despite the pain, I gave him a smile. "Do I look like a zombie?" I could practically hear the cogs in his head turning. Sam dragged a hand through his hair. "Will you hit me if I say yes?" I shooed him away when he held up his hand. "How many fingers am I holding up?" 15. I rolled my eyes. I meant to say that we should head down the stairs, because I was feeling progressively sicker by the second and felt like I was going to faint. The world around me becoming a blur of colors and faint noises I could barely even decipher. A sudden loud slam, however, pricked my ears. It didn't seem to alert the crowd of students, merely a whisper in a room full of loud chatter and laughter. To me, though, it was a sound I knew all too well. Lifting my head, I scanned the crowd enveloping the hallway. Sam was speaking behind me, but his voice collapsed into a low buzz of white noise, bleeding into my muddled brain. I knew that sound, the sound of skin hitting glass or wood, sometimes plastic, the sound of slipping on a rug or tripping on literal air. There was nobody else it could be but my chronically clumsy roommate, which meant he was on campus, and I had zero idea how to confront him about the cannibalism thing. He wasn't what you'd expect a monster to look like, especially not one you knew had already killed and eaten you multiple times. It was all about perspective. To a passerby, he seemed like an ordinary college student, a disheveled one who had just stumbled headlong into an automatic door, leaving a glaring red bruise in the center of his forehead. But to me, Rowan Beck was a monster surrounded by fresh meat. The students pushing past him were a blur to me, but to him, I caught his gaze drinking each one in, his nose flaring when a guy sauntered past him. From a distance, my roommate appeared unchanged, wearing a faded threadbare t-shirt bearing a logo that had long since peeled away, a pair of well-worn jeans with frayed edges and a patch over one knee. So much for his pretentious phase. The glasses were a choice. His dark brown curls were tousled and unkempt, partly hidden under a baseball cap that looked like it had seen better days. But as he drew nearer, I could see his mask slowly start to crumble, his wide smile faltering, twitching into a grimace. His cheeks looked hollow, gaunt even, like something was sucking the life from him, closing in on me, his penetrating gaze hidden behind a pair of Ray-Bans. My mediocre lunch crept up my throat. I stepped back, scanning for an exit, and like he had read my mind, his steps quickened. He was still wearing that disguise, still mimicking my best friend, hiding whatever spell he was under. Rowan oozed broke college student who hadn't showered in days. In his hand was a to-go cup of hot cocoa, which was my favorite. Rowan knew that. It had been my coffee order every time we studied there as a 4. "Yo, Nan, what's up?" Rowan was attracting stares as he sort of danced towards me, tripping over his feet, only for him to steady himself with a grin. His words were slurred slightly when he handed me the drink, and he stumbled, managing to right himself. He wasn't moon drunk, I thought, actually drunk. "Hey," Sam nudged me. I noticed he'd stiffened up. "That's your roommate, Rowan Beck?" I didn't get a chance to reply, with Rowan situating himself right in front of me, swaying a little. "Now, call me crazy," my roommate said in a slurred giggle. He stumbled again, and this time, my hand shot out to steady him on impulse. I caught the flash of disgust on his face. Still wearing that smile, he swiped my hand off of his shoulder. "But I'm getting the vibe you're avoiding us, which is like so rude. You could have just sent a text, but no. You decided you wanted to be cool and mysterious. I took the drink hesitantly. Are you drunk? Rowan cocked his head. He had that stupid smile again. The one he pulled during a full moon. Outside, though, it was daylight. The sun was shining in the sky. Drunk? You think I can get drunk? Nah, man. I just kind of feel like shit. He shrugged. I haven't been eating great the last few days. Not eating can fuck a guy up. Right, Nin? Every word penetrated like a knife. And suddenly, it was hard to fucking breathe. My roommate turned to Sam. Oh, I know you. He spread out his arms. A choked laugh escaped his lips. You're that guy who wrote that fucking article about us. Rowan was causing a scene and he didn't give a shit. I couldn't tell if he was moon drunk or just more insane than usual. He jumped in front of Sam with the kind of manic energy which was still him and yet cranked to 100. Loved it, Fuller. You're a literacy genius. Especially when you call us evil body-snatching demons. You should have burned us at the stake. A truly riveting read. Sam's expression stayed stoic. Rowan. He said my roommate's name like poison. Where's Kaz? Playing COD, probably. Rowan's lips curled into a smirk. He leaned close to the guy, raising an eyebrow. His words more of a breathy laugh. Why? Do you want me to pass a message to him? Sam stepped back. Nin, I gotta go, he said, pulling out his phone. I'll speak to you later. Right. I panicked. Am I still okay to stay? I'm busy. Sam nodded at me, ignoring Rowan, before stumbling back into the crowd. Come by later, alright? He was gone before I could open my mouth. Oh no, don't go. Rowan mocked a pout, turning to me. Damn, did he seem offended by my presence? He waved Sam away with a grin. Anyway, Imogen is making dinner tonight. She bought all the ingredients from something she saw on Pinterest. So I'm not holding my breath that it'll be any good, or even edible. I didn't fight back when he slipped his hand in mine, pulling me down the stairs. His tone was already puppeteering my limbs. My roommate twisted around, shooting me a sheepish smile. Okay, you got me. I should probably apologize for the other night. I was already backing away, pulling away from him. I don't care what you have to say, I said in a breath. I'm staying with my parents. You mean halfway across the state? Rowan's hand tightened around my arm. Come on, we just want to talk. Talk? That got my attention. Following him to his car parked out front, I slipped into the passenger seat. I was aware I was following the big bad wolf into the forest, every horror movie cliché. But what other choice did I have? I needed answers. Maybe he was finally going to tell me what the fuck was going on. Rowan was still my roommate. I had lived with him for 2 years. I needed to know what was going on with them. Why were they like this? And why, according to him, this was my fault. Rowan jumped into the driver's seat and started the car, dragging his hand through his hair. Yeah, he said. I mean, once again, we left you on a full moon, and I bet it sucked. But hey, he chuckled. At least you didn't see us moon drunk again. My housemate sent me a mocking look. Wait, did you? Oh man, what did I do this time? The last thing I remember is playing Monopoly, and I think at some point I cuffed you to your bed. Twisting around to face him, my heart slithered into my throat. The bastard was still playing his games. You're still saying that? I hissed. Moon drunk? Rowan's gaze didn't leave the road. I mean, yeah, he murmured. You said we freaked you out, so we keep our distance. Rowan didn't speak for most of the ride, and I spent majority of it trying to find out how to jump out of a moving car without seriously injuring myself. My phone vibrated, and I pulled it out. glimpsing a text heading my notification bar. Sam, sent 4:06 p.m. Get out, Nin. Get out of that house. Instinctively, I grabbed for the handle, pawing for a way out. I felt like I was on fire, my body moving closer to the door, leaning into it, as if it would magically fucking open for me. You okay? Rowan murmured. He slipped off his Ray-Bans and turned to me. That same gleam was in his eyes, that sliver of moonlight. He looked worse without the Ray-Bans. Bloodshot eyes, a mixture of burst blood vessels in moonlight, haloing his iris. My roommate looked beautiful and horrifying at the same time, a mixture of human and inhuman. The shell of the guy I thought I knew, filled with her. But there was something else, something I didn't understand. His skin looked cracked, like it was splintering apart. And in those cracks was what I imagined pins and needles to look like. Static. There was static leaking from the cracks, spider webbing across his pasty skin. Rowan sighed when I couldn't bring myself to answer. You know, he said, his hands tapping the steering wheel. Eating makes me feel better. He took out a long breath, tapping out a tune. Well, it takes the memories away, you know? Makes me feel so fucking good. He tipped his head back, eyes rolling back, like he was in euphoria. Rowan? I managed to get out. His eyes flickered shut at a red light. You would not believe how good the human skull tastes when mixed with intestines. Oh my god, the crunch! It's fucking insane. Your skin is my favorite part. He tapped a beat with his shoe. Damn, you taste so good. Like chicken, but a little sour. When I grabbed for the door handle, one arm whipped out, pinning me to the seat, the other straying on the wheel. He was unsurprisingly strong, his heavy weight restraining me against the leather. The flesh under Kaz's bed is good. I mean, it's a little soggy and gross on the outside. It's not peak meat, but it's tolerable. If you ask me honestly, I'd say I prefer you refrigerated. His lips split into a grin, and we're saving those for a good game of Smash. Rowan? I heard myself say his name again, straining against his arm. You said we should talk. He deadpanned. Outside, the world went by as normal, the evening rush hour flying by in a blur of vivid reds and oranges. So, that's what we're gonna do. He whistled. Talk. Words appeared in my throat, but they wouldn't form on my tongue. He surprised me with a laugh. And with that laugh, his facade was shattered. He'd finally ripped off his mask. Why did you have to come downstairs? Rowan finally twisted to me, his lips curled into a grin, his eyes telling a different story. So many emotions, past emotions, emotions from a time ripped from my memory, hatred and pain and anger and something else entirely I couldn't read. All you had to do was stay in your fucking room, and we wouldn't have to remember. We could go on living, you, me, Kaz, and Emmy. And yeah, when I'm agitated or nearing its totality, I start to remember pieces of it. His voice broke, which was so unlike him, so haunted, so hollow and wrong. Why, I fucking despise you, Nin. He was trembling, and when I dared look, his skin was slowly coming apart, a cocktail of moonlight and static pouring out. I was frozen. I couldn't fucking move. Rowan grabbed the wheel with both hands, his knuckles turning white. He'd let me go, but I couldn't bring myself to move. Not when he said that. Not when his words had stirred something in me. Still though, he kept speaking. Like him, the real him, had been silenced for so long. And here he was, letting it all out. She takes all the bad away, he whispered, a dreamy smile spreading across his lips. As long as we eat, I don't feel anything at all. I don't have to fucking think or breathe. I can look at you with those rose-tinted glasses and a foggy brain. It's fucking bliss. It's like I'm drowning. Rowan sighed, dragging his hand through his hair. Not now, he said. Now. She's punishing me because I haven't eaten. The car swerved around a truck, and I fought against my own body, fighting to grab the wheel, but I was frozen. Now I remember. His tone was poison spitting from his tongue. She made us remember, and it's fucking there in my head. His voice strained, and he stabbed at his left temple. Right there. It's right fucking here, Nin. And I can't stop her. She's in my head. Rowan didn't look at me. In fact, he was actively avoiding making eye contact. Tears were welling in his eyes. Hysterical tears leaking that same buzzing black and white static. She's in my head. Always in my head. Singing, man. Singing at the top of her voice. What did I do? I didn't mean to say it. The car swerved again, and I braced myself against the seat. Rowan, you keep telling me I did something. I managed. Why can't you tell me? My roommate turned to me. His eyes filled with that unearthly light I knew he'd been trying to avoid for months. His smile suddenly disappeared. His smile was suddenly maniacal. Not his. Someone else's. Because it's fun. This time, I did grab for the wheel, trying to shove him from his seat. Stop the fucking car. Rowan easily got the upper hand, grasping it. No, like I said, we're going home. And we're going to talk. It was me who laughed this time. Talk? I sputtered. You mean eat me? Copy me? Whatever you do. I couldn't control my emotions. I laughed. It felt good. You suck at being a serial killer. I managed to take him off guard for a moment. He blinked before regaining control. It's not like that. Jesus fucking Christ. Then what is it? I spat back, days of repressed emotions rushing to the surface. I catch you eating me? And what am I supposed to think? Did you guys seriously think I'd go along with whatever this is? Are you trying to shield me? Is that it? I was laughing. I couldn't stop. And at that moment, I realized we were both under her spell. Both of us were screaming at each other. Rowan, leaking her light, and me, bathing in it. It hit me then, that I was as inhuman as him. Whatever the moon had done, it was affecting both of us. I just didn't have the cannibalistic tendencies he had. I caught you chewing on what I presume was my 26th body. What the fuck do you think you can shield me from? Rowan surprised me with a scoff. I'm sorry, shield you? He turned to me fully, and I realized, my stomach creeping into my throat, that he wasn't looking at the road. Are you fucking kidding me? My roommate choked out. I want you to remember, he yelled. Do you think I like looking at you? Knowing that you're completely oblivious about what you did to us? No, it fucking hurts. You think I want to play happy families with you? Rowan was cracking. I wasn't sure if that was good or bad. I noticed him inching away from me. That's why we eat. She numbs those feelings, those thoughts. She only makes us think about the good. When his hand slammed into the steering wheel, I finally caught a sliver of humanity coming back to fruition on his face. My hand slipped from the handle, and I heard myself speak. What did I do? But Rowan's eyes were on the road again. He squinted, and reality seeped in. What the fuck is that? No longer on the road. We were heading into darkness, an empty stretch of oblivion I didn't recognize. There were no signs of cars. I swallowed. What did you see? Rowan shook his head, blinking rapidly. Nothing, he said. I think I'm seeing things. Whatever Rowan was about to say was cut off suddenly, followed by a blinding flash. which felt and sounded like the world had been ripped apart in front of us. Something was there, blinding me, searing my eyes from my skull, but I had no time to scream, no time to think or breathe. Before I could, my mind was working, and dizzying thoughts were hitting me. Our car had hit something, and that something was powerful enough to propel us into the air. My roommate's car shredded apart. The world was shattering around me. My body caught in a whirlwind. The sensations were too real to be feeling them. I wasn't supposed to feel this. I wasn't supposed to feel my body being ripped apart, and still be self-aware enough to screech into nothing, a nothing which existed. When my head had been ripped from my torso, I wasn't supposed to exist. I waited to die, without a brain, without a body. I waited for the dark, and yet, somehow, I didn't fall fully. Instead of plunging into the dark, my body was still mine. It still had a head, a torso. It was still mine when it hit something with a sickening crack. Concrete. Dying kind of feels like melting. I was aware my eyes were snapping open for a moment, then something wet and warm spreading around me and trickling from my lips. I could taste rust, and I couldn't stop it. My vision was blurry, too blurry to make sense of anything. I watched my eyelids flickering, like they were unsure what to do. The sky was pretty. I think I tried to name a star, before everything kind of just melted. It was the 28th time I died, and this was the first time I really felt it. Melting. I melted into the ground, my body and thoughts fragmenting, before whatever had taken me choked me back down. Death had rejected me. After a disorienting moment of nothing, trapped between nothing and something, awareness came back to me in splinters, reality bleeding back into focus. I could feel the breeze tickling my back. I had moved. I was no longer where I'd landed on my back after being propelled from the car in the crash. Now I was lying on my stomach. Something tickled my face. Grass. I was lying down on the side of the road. I can't describe the sensation it was, to awaken only being part real. When I sat up, I felt real. I felt like I was part of this universe, but looking down at myself, I resembled a ghost, both see-through and not, prodding at my skin. That same static bleeding from Rowan's face worked effortlessly, carving my outline and stitching me back together. My body was a brand new copy of me before the crash. I even saw the coffee stain on my shirt, the smear of pen I'd drawn on the back of my hand when I was bored in class. I felt nothing, like I was made of stars, hollow. Something was missing though, a cavern in my mind beginning its purge. Do you know when you wake up from a dream and it slips away as you regain consciousness? That's what it felt like everything which had happened, the crash, everything Rowan said, was a dream. Once I felt more like myself, and when my fingertips could touch real objects, wet gravel and grass, my own skin, I shakily got to my feet. I found my old body at the side of the road. I'd bled out, just like I thought. My eyes were still wide open, still struggling to name that constellation. When I crawled over to it, I couldn't resist, grasping hold of her hand, only to get a flash, like I was seeing her POV. She was my body's old memories. I saw Rowan's expression, his skin splintering apart, his eyes filled with moonlight. I saw him struggling with the wheel, and then the crash. Letting go of her ice-cold hand, I let out a sharp breath, her memories flashing out of existence. I didn't have time to think about what I had seen, about the questions piling in my skull, taking over my thoughts. Rowan was still in the car, his body twisted like a pretzel. My roommate's head smashed against the wheel, splattered with gore, his brain leaking from his ears. Rowan! I stopped shaking him, when I realized his spine had snapped, his body more liquid than solid. When I felt for a pulse, it was still there, but faint, as sharp red pooled around him, sticking to his hair and drenching his skin and clothes. His head lolled to the side, and I saw and felt that final breath escape his lips. When I crawled out of the wreck of his car, I dropped onto my knees. There it was again. This time, it was louder, completely unmistakable. The sound of a photograph being taken. When that light filled my eyes once again, I turned away from the car wreck, blinking through intense light. It was at the back end of that sound. The sound of a photo snapping reality and stealing away a moment. When I glimpsed the body seemingly bleeding into existence right in front of me, like a Polaroid coming to life. Stumbling over him, I found Rowan curled into himself, and like me, he was made up of static, which became flesh, which became skin, spreading across him, making a perfect copy, an exact replica of the dead guy in the wreck. He was beautiful, like a shadow coming to life, a sketch bleeding into a human. Hesitantly, I reached out and brushed dark curls out of the way, hair which was still shadows and shapes seeping into contorted reality. This time, the number 3 was carved into his skin, and by the look of it, the number was fresh, only just coming into existence. Did my asshole roommate just respawn? After a moment of just watching him, watching my roommate be brought to life, his chest rising and falling, eyelids flickering, lips parting, I got a hold of myself and tried to grab him, but when I was sure my hands made contact with him, flesh with flesh, something smashed into the back of my head, and stars filled my vision. I hit the ground, barely physical, which made me easier to capture. I was being dragged, my arms burning across the rough concrete, before a shadow was looming over me, something cold suffocating my nose and mouth. In the corner of my eye, I glimpsed an adult figure lifting Rowan into their arms, his body still flickering in and out of existence. Before I could cry out, I was forced to inhale, choking on what smelled like lemons, before my body went limp, and I allowed myself to be dragged into the pitch dark.